Hey everyone, today we're going to be going over a few great mobility exercises for overuse injuries of the gluteal muscles. So that might be gluteal tendonitis or piriformis syndrome. Stick around for these great mobility exercises. So we're actually going to start with one exercise that I see people do commonly to introduce some hip mobility and glute mobility for overuse injuries that I would actually recommend you don't do, and I'll show you what to do instead. This is a classic exercise we see in yoga, except we're doing it in a rocking motion, and that's downward facing dog. So for most people, especially people with a little bit more hamstring flexibility than I have, downward facing dog is going to look like this. You may feel a stretch in your hamstrings, maybe your calves. But what this doesn't do is actually introduce any mobility into the hip region. You're stretching your hamstrings, maybe down into your calves, but you're not actually working any glute mobility. So what I would recommend you do instead of a downward dog is this stretch working into an exercise. So we're going to start with the hip that's tighter in the back, hip that's looser in the front. And you may not be able to fully sit in this position, but we're going to try and get into a 90 degrees, 90 degrees, and 90 degrees here. Don't worry about your hip touching the ground. That's what we're actually going to be working on this first stretch part of this exercise. So back hip, again, is the one that's tighter. Let's go hip towards your front knee and then sit back a little bit more. We're just going to rock in between, back and forth. We're going to do about 10 of these and then progress it. Try and get your butt cheek on the back here as close to the ground as you can on each one until you're feeling a stretch maybe on the inside here or in the back. Once we've done 10 here, we're going to move your hand to in front and do the same thing, 10 rocks back and forth. This is going to feel pretty awkward. I feel like a weird pretzel here, but I do feel that stretch in the front of my hip now. Once we've done 10, we're going to take hands away. This is we're blending into stretching and doing an exercise for this to strengthen this musculature as well. And we're going to do that same thing. You can actually rotate your body towards your back hip here if you're not feeling the stretch. Kind of sit into it a little bit more. You might find that you can actually get your hip down to the ground now. Again, 10 more here, and pause. You can repeat that exercise if you feel like you're not getting very stretchy. Do another set of each of those, so that'll be 30 total. And then we're going to get into more strengthening. Mobility is about your active range of motion, so what you're able to do in real life rather than what you're just stretching. So there's a difference between flexibility and mobility. Flexibility is like when you grab your hamstring and you pull it up to your face, see how far it can go. Mobility is when you just kick out straight in front of you and you see how far up your leg can go. One of them is active, mobility, and one of them is passive, flexibility. We're working on that active mobility here so that this translates more into daily life activities or sports. So we need to strengthen this musculature in this range that it's uncomfortable in. So after we've gone through that stretch progression, we're going to stay here right where we ended, and you're going to create the intention, it may not actually move, intention of pulling this back heel up towards the ceiling. You can roll a little bit with this, and for me this is really hard and it feels like it's going to cramp. Hold for 3, 2, 1, and down. And we're going to repeat 5 times. Hold, 3, 2, 1, and down. Should feel like this is about to cramp. It may even cramp. That is okay. We're working in an end range here. We're working at the end of this hip musculature's available range. That way we can push it a little bit further each time. And again, we're doing 5 of these. Hold for 3 on each side and down. Last progression in here, we're going to be doing the opposite. So we're actually pushing our back foot here down into the ground without letting our knee come up. So you won't see much on camera. This isn't going to move a whole ton, but we're going to create that intention of shoving this back foot through the ground really hard. You should feel your glute contracting. 2, 1, and down. If you want to stretch here, you can rotate towards, again, 3, 2, 1, and down. Do that 5 times and then get up. Test out your hip range of motion. See how it feels standing. Maybe do some hip circles here and see if you've gotten any improvement with that. This is really great for those people with overuse glute injuries. This is really great for people with overuse glute injuries. Overuse injuries often cause stiffness in the area and disuse, and with that comes a lack of mobility. So it is really important at some point to gain that mobility back so that you can use it in the activities that you love. If you're curious on how to progress this or how to actually create more strength in the area, go ahead and reach out to me. My information is in the description, and I'm in Southern California.